You're listening to 15 Minutes, where we feature community leaders sharing what the rest of us should know but likely don't. Hi, Chad Franzen here, one of the hosts of Share Your Voice, where we talk with top-notch law firms and lawyers about what it takes to grow a successful law practice. This episode is brought to you by Gladiator Law Marketing, delivering tailor-made services to help you accomplish your objectives and maximize your growth potential. To have a successful marketing campaign and make sure you're getting the best ROI, your firm needs to have a better website and better content. Gladiator Law Marketing uses artificial intelligence, machine learning, and decades of experience to outperform the competition. To learn more, go to gladiatorlawmarketing.com, where you can schedule a free marketing consultation. Lauren Eagan is the founder and CEO of Eagan Immigration, a nationwide immigration law firm. Over the past decade, Lauren has grown the firm from a solo operation working off of her couch to an 80-person team with attorneys across the United States and in offices both in the United States and Costa Rica. She believes that her biggest success in growing her company is her ability to prioritize company culture and create a workplace environment that truly supports and empowers her team. Lauren, thanks so much for joining me today. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Great, thank you. Hey, tell me as we get started here, how and when did you know you wanted to become an attorney?
In undergrad, I entered undergrad not really knowing what I wanted to do. So I just did took a bunch of different types of classes, and I had started Spanish in high school, so I kept doing Spanish. And I remember meeting with one of my professors, and she was talking to me about how she would go volunteer at hospitals just to translate for people who didn't speak English. And it was in that moment that I realized that I wanted to work with a Spanish-speaking population in some way where I could help them here in the United States. And then once I had that realization, I thought about different career paths. And ultimately, I decided on the law because I wanted to be able to give them some sort of concrete result, such as a green card or a visa, versus, following along like a social worker would. Like, I wanted to be able to, have something tangible that I could deliver.
So kind of take me through your path to immigration law. Obviously, you decided you wanted to work with, Spanish-speaking people. How did you kind of go down that road?
Yeah, so as soon as I kind of realized that, I simultaneously started applying to take the LSAT and then apply to law schools. And I also applied for a study abroad program in Guadalajara, Mexico, because I realized I really needed to be fluent. So I moved abroad. I studied for a full year in Guadalajara. I actually graduated undergrad in 3 years. So that was my last year of undergrad. And then I stayed in Guadalajara a full second year and then started law school at San Diego the following year. And at the time, I was married to someone I had met while studying abroad, and his visa was actually denied. So I was crossing the border between Mexico and San Diego every day, waiting 3 hours in the borderline to get to law school. And that was 6 days a week because I was doing moot court and law review and things like that. And so that was kind of the path. And then once I was in law school, I looked for clerkships, internships, that type of thing, and started working for a firm right out of law school.
So waiting 3 hours in the borderline while in law school, could you like study or something like that while you were there? Or?
Yeah, I would study, and I really enjoy languages. So I would study, and then I would also listen to like French CDs, not music, but like the language learning ones to try and learn French. And then ultimately I would get tired of studying every day and listen to like some gossipy news program on the radio. But
did living in Mexico like that, I know you said you needed to become fluent. Did kind of that immersion practice help you become fluent?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'm almost completely fluent, near native at this point. And the other day, actually, I was at the gym and I heard a couple of people speaking Spanish, and I had heard them speaking Spanish before, but this time I heard the topic and was like, oh, I have a recommendation. They were trying to find a place that sells homemade tortillas. And I was like, oh, I know a place. And the look on one of the guys' faces, like he went ghost white, like, you speak Spanish? He couldn't believe it. So yeah, living in Mexico absolutely helped. And being married, I was married to that person for 5 years. And so we spoke Spanish all the time, like in the house. So that helped a lot.
Were you, as you were learning Spanish and you were living there, I only ask you this because I lived in a Spanish-speaking country, were you better at understanding what they were saying, or were you better at thinking of what you wanted to say and then saying it?
In the beginning, understanding. But yeah, definitely in the beginning, understanding. Like I lost probably 15 pounds the first few months I was there just because all I knew how to order was like quesadillas and like so I was living off of quesadillas and like those Costco chocolate muffins, but then as I continued to live there, I picked it up and now I would say it's pretty equal at this point.
So could you do the work you're doing with immigration clients without Spanish fluency, or how has it benefited you?
I could do it, but I think it has really benefited because I connect with my clients so much better and my potential clients. I was one of the first immigration law firms to really utilize social media almost a decade ago, and I would do Facebook Lives, and really hardly any attorneys were doing Facebook Lives when I started doing them. And so I created a huge following just because I was so fluent and to the point where I can make jokes and really my personality shows through. Whereas you can be a level of fluent where you can't quite translate some of the humor, things like that. But my personality really shows through. So I was able to connect with potential clients. And I think that's what propelled my business, to be honest, especially in the beginning.
So I'm not totally familiar with all areas of immigration law, but I'm curious what inspired you to focus your practice on areas like VAWA, family-based petitions, T visas, U visas, and naturalization.
Yeah, I just really like working with people and families and kids. And we do have a business department in the firm, but I pretty much have nothing to do with it because it's not what drives me. I want to see families staying together. I want to see people who've suffered trauma or abuse like have a safe place and feel security. It makes me feel really good when I can help somebody's life just feel more stable and more secure.
I know your team has worked with clients from over 30 different countries. I think 34 from what I saw.
Yeah.
What has that experience taught you about kind of different cultural perspectives, and how important is that to keep in mind when you go into working, with these people?
Yeah, for me, it's been really interesting because over the years, I have worked, as you said, with 30 people from 34 different countries. And over time, I've realized, okay, I really connect with people from these countries. And then I don't connect so well with people from these countries because of like specific cultural differences that clash with my personality. And it's been really interesting to just see, how I was raised and then how that either connects or totally disconnects from another culture or another area of the world.
How did your starting your own firm kind of come about, Eagan Immigration?
So I moved across the country. I got engaged to my current husband and we decided to move. We were in San Diego. We decided to move to the Washington, D.C. area because his family was in Southern Virginia. And so I quit the job I had and I was interviewing at different jobs in the D.C. area. And I kept turning them down because nothing quite felt like the right fit. And simultaneously, a contact of mine was like, "Oh, I heard you just moved to DC. One of my clients just moved to DC. Do you think you could take on this case?" So I was like, "Yeah, I'll take on this one case, while I'm between jobs." And the rest is history, basically. Like, I loved being my own boss. I loved setting my own schedule. I loved brainstorming how to attract more clients and how to reach more people. And I felt like I just could do it better than other places where I'd worked or other places where I'd interviewed. And so I wanted to give that a try.
What has made you successful in terms of attracting clients?
Social media is a huge thing. And I am just very confident in my own personality. So when I'm on social media or in person meeting with clients, like I will crack jokes. I will cry if it's an emotional moment. Like I know who I am and I'm not afraid to show that to everybody. And I think that really helps clients feel like I'm a real human being that's really going to care about their case, which is the absolute truth. I do care about their cases and I get so excited, even though we now have thousands of cases, like I get so excited for all of the wins because I care about them and they see that because I let my personality come through a lot.
You, as I mentioned in your intro, you started out just doing your own thing, working from your couch, and now
Yes.
you have a team of 80 plus people.
Yeah.
Uh, Take me through kind of like, if you could, kind of the growth process. What's been the key to going from couch to 80?
Yeah, it's a combination of, good timing. So we really exploded in the beginning of COVID, actually, which was the opposite for a lot of people. But for us, we really got huge during COVID. And part of that was we were like, well, we're all working from home. Let's just target our marketing to other cities and other states that we haven't targeted before, because what do we have to lose? And simultaneously, we narrowed our practice areas a little bit to these specific humanitarian case types. And so we started getting in a lot more clients. And then at the same time, I just started building this team and creating this company culture where my team felt empowered to handle things on their own. I wasn't micromanaging them. I was, checking in, giving support, but saying, look, I trust you. I hired you because you are an expert in XYZ, and I want you to do it. Like, you tell me what you think we can do better. You tell me where we can improve. And so little by little, the company has grown and we've maintained that attitude. And so we have really high retention. We rarely have people leave the firm of their own volition. And I think it's been great. If I notice that someone isn't the right fit culturally, if there's like tension among teams or gossiping, like, I will cut that fast. Like, I will not let it spread through my organization. People know, like, we treat each other with respect here. We're supportive. If there's a problem, you can come to leadership and confidentially we'll like talk through it, but we're not having that attitude going through the company.
I think I saw that many of your team members have actual personal experience with immigration. How does that shape the firm's approach?
They are so compassionate because of that and so empathetic. If you call our firm, you're probably going to speak to somebody who has had some sort of immigration experience. And so they're not just talking to you to try and like sell business or try and get you to sign with us or whatever. They have been through it and they really believe in the firm and they believe in how much we care about our clients. And so they want people to sign with us because they know that we're going to do a really good job. And just today, I was talking with an attorney on my team. We haven't taken asylum cases for a few years for logistical reasons, really. And I knew that she had some friends that were in the asylum process. And today I talked to her and I was like, look, I know we haven't been taking these cases, but let's brainstorm a way to take the ones that are near and dear to our heart. Because I know that if it were my friend, I would want them at this firm because I trust our ability to like win cases, to like go the distance more than I trust any other firm. And she was like thrilled. And that goes to company culture too. I'm listening to these things that maybe get said in passing and saying, okay, like, what is important to my team? How can we make it happen?
So how did you kind of decide that this was the way you were going to go with your firm in terms of, kind of taking a non-micromanaging stance, a trusting thing, maybe a culture of growth and learning and creative thinking, things like that. Did you evolve into that, or did you just think, this is what I'm going to do at some point?
I attribute a big part of it to my father, honestly, because that's how he raised me. Both my parents raised me, but he never ever tells me what to do. He always, if there's something, a big issue or something going on, he just asks me questions and like helps me think through it and come to my own conclusions. And so I think for me, that's a very normal thing. Like, I don't want to tell somebody what to do. To me, that's almost a waste of my time. I'm just going to have to keep doing that over and over. I'd rather ask questions or give them the autonomy to kind of figure it out themselves. And I know when I elevate people in certain roles in the company and they suddenly have more autonomy, it's a little mind blowing at first because they're like, whoa, like, you're going to let me make that decision? Like, that's a huge business decision. And I'm like, yeah, well, you're in this role now. Like, you get to make those. Just because I'm the CEO doesn't mean I'm going to make every single decision.
I know that transparency and open communication are pretty valued at your firm.
Yeah.
Are there policies or practices that you have in place to uphold those principles?
Um, Honestly, I'd have to talk to my HR director to find out if we have something specific. But in general, we just have pretty regular check-ins, and it's almost like a trickle-down approach. So we have a strategic planning team, and that's most of our leadership. And it's just something that I repeat all the time. It's probably like mind-numbing to them at this point, but I'm like, I trust you. You guys are empowered. I believe in you. We're here to support you. If there's something you think can be better, come to us. I care about you. I care about your families. Like I just say things like that all the time because they're true. And I want it to really sink in. Like, even if I said it last meeting, somebody might be in a totally different headspace in this meeting. And so I want to make sure I'm saying it every time so that regardless of the space that someone's in, it's getting through.
You've mentioned empathy before. I know, your colleagues and your employees take an empathetic approach to your clients. It sounds like you take an empathetic approach to your employees.
Absolutely. We understand, one, that people are human. They have their own lives. Most of our staff is primarily women. Most of our attorneys, we have 10 attorneys and 8 of them are women. And almost all of them are moms. And so that's one thing. It's like, this is new for a lot of people where we're like, okay, your kid's sick. That's fine. Like, take the day off, spend the day with your kid. We also know that the cases that we take, they have a lot of trauma issues. They have a lot of past abuse issues. They can be really emotionally draining to work on them. So we have therapists that we contract with so that our staff, we give them free therapy essentially. And it's confidential. It's not coming back to me or anything, but we have that outlet, and it's therapists that are specifically trained to work with people who experience secondary trauma, like journalists, lawyers, reporters, things like that. And then we also offer mental health days, and we tell people, take your mental health days. We want you to be, when you're at work, we want you to be happy and like your tank to be full. We don't want you to feel drained constantly because you're not taking care of yourself.
Is empowerment the primary way you kind of develop new talent that you hire, or is there other ways that you do it?
Yeah, I would say empowerment is one of the big ways. And creativity is a big thing too. I really push, like, let's think outside the box. Let's find a solution. Okay, we've been hearing for years from all of our previous mentors that you can't do this case this way, but I bet there's a way. Let's figure out, like, how can we do this case the way we want to do this case? And we have a whole team that's dedicated just to, like, it's our think tank, but just to like brainstorming and coming up with ideas. So I think, that goes along with empowering them, but just a heavy emphasis on creating new ideas and strategies and things like that.
Do you have maybe an example or a story that illustrates how your team has kind of gone above and beyond to find a creative solution for a client? I know I'm putting you on the spot here.
I know you should have prepped me for this. I don't know if I have I'm trying to think. I like want to know now if I can come up with one on the spot. Probably not off the top of my head. I mean, we do a lot of appeals. A lot of things get denied at the first level with immigration, and then we do these like really complex appeals. But one thing that we did implement that's somewhat innovative for a law firm is, a lot of our clients get their permanent residence, but then they don't get their citizenship because they're too nervous about the English exam. And so we actually created an English school through our firm. Wow. And so people can sign up and take lessons so that they can learn English and be ready to take their English exam. So that's something like very out of the box. But my think tank team was like, I think this would be amazing for our clients. It would empower them to go all the way to citizenship. And so that's something we implemented within the last year that has just been really exciting for the firm.
Wow. Yeah, that's very cool. Are there any misconceptions that you often find that people have, or even things that people are just naive to regarding immigration law?
Well, for people that have no experience with it, everyone thinks, or it seems like everyone thinks, that there is a line and you get in the line and you wait your turn in the line and you get a visa. Like, for most of the people, there is no line. Like, you can't get into the line. And so you either have to enter the country without inspection, without documentation, and be here essentially illegally. I'm putting that in air quotes because no human is illegal, but you know what I mean, undocumented. Or if you are in a line, some of the lines are like 20 years long. So it's like you might apply for your sibling when you turn like 21, and it's not until they're in their 40s or 50s that they're actually getting the visa. And so that's a huge misconception. And that's why we try to come up with really creative strategies, because it's like, all right, we have to find something that's not going to work, that's separate from this line business that everyone thinks exists.
I know your office has your firm has an office in Costa Rica in addition to U.S. locations. What kind of led to that specific international expansion?
That is the need, as our firm has grown, just the need for more support and more staff. We have staff from around the world, but from a compliance standpoint, as the company grows, there's more scrutiny. You need to be really careful about making sure you're compliant with labor laws in the US, labor laws in all these other countries. And so the idea with the Costa Rica office is to kind of consolidate our international staff. We never let anyone go, and we're not planning to let anyone go. But as there's natural attrition, we'll kind of replace people by hiring in the Costa Rica office. And, someday I would like to have that office also be a support for other law firms who may need, maybe a smaller law firm who just needs a paralegal to support them, a Spanish speaker who understands immigration law, and we'll have people trained up that can then support those law firms. That's a big undertaking. So that's probably something in the next few years, not right now, but I'd like to be able to provide that to other law firms as well.
I know in our political climate today, there's kind of maybe some people have shifted or been more vocal about their maybe a negative attitude toward immigration. Do you think that'll have an impact on immigration law over the next few years?
I mean, if Trump gets elected, which I'm honestly not hopeful, I think he probably will get elected, that's going to affect things. We saw when he was in office the last time a huge shift in immigration court proceedings. They hired a lot of conservative judges. And so cases that previously were getting approved were getting denied, like back to back, constant denials, to the point where that was part of why I shifted strategies too. I was like, I cannot charge all of this money when I know that this case is going to get denied just because the judges are all racist, essentially. And so I changed strategies, and I can foresee that happening in the future as well. So we just kind of keep a pulse on it. And then there are certain types of cases where there is a concern. All right, are they going to try and change the law here and overturn or, essentially cancel out these case types? And we'll see. I mean, the humanitarian ones, I would say, are less at risk for that because they pull a little more on the heartstrings. But at the same time, with Trump in office, like, you really don't know how far they're going to try and go.
What kind of advice? I know we're not in an era where people often listen, but what kind of advice would you give to somebody who doesn't really know what, like, they hear things on the news or they hear Trump or whatever, who doesn't really know what to think about immigration? What kind of advice would you give to those people?
Well, it's so hard because I want to give advice like, go get find out what's the truth. Don't just listen to the rhetoric, like, find out what's the truth. But at this point, there's so much misinformation everywhere that it's so hard to find the truth. If you really want to learn about immigration, like, find an attorney that is on social media, that's an immigration attorney, and, like, listen to their podcasts, listen to their lives, things like that. Mine are mostly in Spanish, so that's not going to apply really to this demographic you're talking about. But that's what I would do. Like, the attorneys are the ones who are following the actual law, are talking about the actual experience. So if you really want to learn and understand, that's what I would suggest.
Okay, sounds good. Hey, I have one more question for you, but first, how can people find out more about Eagan Immigration?
Yeah, we have a website, social media. On pretty much all social media, we're at Eagan Immigration, EAGAN Immigration, and then website www.eaganimmigration.com. Again, most of my stuff on social media is in Spanish, although we do have some English stuff, but our website is fully English, fully Spanish. So that's where you can find us.
So last question, maybe recent events or whatever have inspired people to decide that they wanted to get into immigration law and help people in the same way you do. What kind of advice would you tell somebody who's maybe plugging their way through law school that you could only tell them based on experience, not maybe based on something you learned in law school?
Yeah, I will tell them this This is what I tell all law. I do meet with law students and stuff like that. I always tell them something that I don't think any other lawyers are going to tell them. And it is, as you're growing in your career, if you start your own firm, if you're working for a firm, pay close attention to what your body and your mind are telling you. If there are going to be times in your career where you want to go hard and you're going to like push and hustle. And if your body is like, I have the energy for this, and your mind is like, I'm excited about this, like ride that wave. Don't, like, if someone comes and says, you need to take it slow, you don't want to burn out, I disagree. Like, ride the wave if you're feeling that way, but try your hardest to be attuned. And as soon as you're like, okay, I'm actually not liking this so much anymore, I'm feeling tired, like listen to that too and take steps back. It is okay to kind of have an up and down approach to your career. And I think a lot of people think it's like a linear increase over time as you move through your career, but let it just kind of flow naturally and really pay attention to what your mind and body are telling you.
Okay, great. Hey, Lauren, it's been great to talk to you today. Thank you so much for all of your insights and your thoughts and your time. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, you're welcome. It was great talking to you. It was a lot of fun.
Absolutely. So long, everybody. Thanks for listening to 15 Minutes. Be sure to subscribe, and we'll see you next time.